There we go, Dad. So I have 35 minutes. You're gonna have to be brief.
I've never been brief.
I know. So we'll see how far we could get.
All right.
Of course, I told you, didn't I tell you that I accidentally erased our first one? So sad.
You erase all of it?
Yes, and it was so good. I had so much fun, but let's see where we're at.
All right. You're asking what is one of my life-defining moments?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
When your mother and I got married. I thought that was a good thing. And I knew we would stay married. Your mother was very thin then. All right.
Wait, how did you know you were going to stay married? And what does her having to be thin have anything to do with it? That's ridiculous.
Well, she was thin. That was my belief system.
That you had to have a thin wife?
No, I'm talking about that we would stay married.
But why?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, I loved her. She loved me. It was in the family traditions. Your grandmother stayed together. On your mother's side, and my grandparents stayed together. Everybody stayed together.
Okay.
So I thought we would too.
That's pretty funny.
All right.
So you didn't say why. So that's a life-defining moment, but
it was. You see, I went from my mother to the army to your mother, and I needed somebody to take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
Those people took care of me. I figured your mother would continue that tradition.
Oi.
All right. What is your favorite memory? Our getting married.
Of all your memories, that's your favorite memory?
Yes. There was a woman whose name was the Duchess of all names. You know about Dutch Cohen. Well, this woman was the primavera in arranging events. So she arranged our wedding, the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. She did it. What hotel? That was her job. That's how she made her living. My mother used her before, so she did our wedding. What is your greatest accomplishment? Living to age 91.
That's pretty good.
What?
I said, that's pretty good. But what else? Come on. You didn't know that you were going to live to 91.
No, I didn't know then that I would live to age 91, but that's been my greatest accomplishment next to having 3 children.
Oh, that's better.
That's better. We raised you well. What is something that that was most rewarding? I don't know if you remember this, but in the Louise house, all 3 of you used to come in on Sunday morning.
Sunday mornings.
Of course, and all 3 of you were on me as I was on my hands and knees. And I supported all of you. At that time, you were all very young.
I
And
remember that.
also getting help for your mother was a great accomplishment. You remember Alice?
No, I don't, well, because I was really young. You mean finding some help, some assistance with Paul and Susan when
Yes.
they were young?
You may not have remembered. I think we got also some Catholic girls who were pregnant.
Mom
And,
has told me that story. Yeah.
and in those days, we didn't know that women should not drink. So this woman liked the brand of scotch that I had. She and I would drink scotch while your mother made dinner.
Oh my God, this is terrible. This
Yes,
is the pregnant Catholic woman or Alice?
that was she was an attractive Catholic woman.
Dad, this is so bad.
Yes.
Shame on you. Shame.
Well,
You guys would drink scotch while Mom would make dinner for you.
yes.
Oh my God.
What is
That's,
someone who greatly influenced you? I took a philosophy class. I was a February high school graduate. And
oh,
Western did not take in students in February. I had to wait to September. So I went to a local religious college. The last class of the day was philosophy, and I really liked that class. After class, many members of the class would go across the street from the college and get a cup of coffee and discuss the philosophers that we studied. The philosophers talked about really how people should conduct themselves. That's really basically what philosophy is.
yeah.
So that caused me to decide to become a lawyer, because the law is also about how people should conduct themselves. So that was the impetus.
I remember you telling that to Lily. So you
did.
took, yeah, you told her this story. When you took this class, you said this was, you had just graduated high school. So this was in Chicago.
In Chicago, right?
And then you said it was a local religious school, like a,
Was you had to go to services Friday afternoon.
so it was a temple that you went to, or no?
Out of the temple. This was Christians. This was not a temple. This was a denomination of Christianity. I don't know which
Okay.
denomination it was, but
So you would go to services on Fridays?
I would go to services during the day because it was required that
Oh,
services. And they had a preacher who believed in being finding Christ. So he talked about finding Christ, and he said, all of you who want to find Christ, come up to the front. I sneezed, and he said, he pointed his finger at me. You want to find Christ? I said, no, I'm Jewish. That was the end of finding Christ.
well, wait, so did you stay, but you went to the services just to be able to take the class?
What?
You went to the services so you could take the class?
No, I went to the services so I could stay in the college. It was required.
Okay, so, so this was this like a junior college or a regular college?
I don't remember.
Oh, how funny.
It may have been a four-year college. I have no recollection.
But you went to a religious college. I'm so surprised.
Well, it was virtually almost walking distance from my.
Oh,
It was
okay,
very close.
okay. Huh.
What is a philosophy that you have always lived by?
Oh, I'm gonna have to turn the air back on in this car. Okay, think about that for 1
Do
second.
unto others
Wait. Oh, as you want them to do unto you.
want them to do to you.
Okay, hold on. Stop for 1 second. I just gotta turn the car back on because it's getting warm in here. Let me pause Zoom recording. Okay, so that philosophy of do unto others as you want them to do unto you.
Yes.
Where did you learn that from?
The hanging in my office is an essay.
Oh yeah, we discussed this too. So
And that's one of the things that was said in that essay, which I thought is a good way to live.
but when you got that essay, that you've had that for a long time, do you remember, because this was in the other recording, we had talked about that and I looked it up. There was, do you remember how long ago you had that essay?
So when I got it, I don't know
Yeah.
when.
You don't remember when you got it?
No, it's just, I don't even know how I got it.
So,
But
oh,
it was something that I got, and I thought it has wisdom to it. And I don't even remember whether I got it framed or unframed. I have a feeling I got it framed.
so that has a lot of your values that
Yes,
you try to live by listed on there.
right.
Who do you think you were influenced by? Were you influenced by your parents through that, or through readings, or what do you think?
That was not something that was the influence by that was not from my parents. That was I don't remember what caused me to buy it. I just remember reading it, seeing it, reading it, and saying that this essay meant something to me. It was a value system that I approved of, and that's why I bought
So
it.
it just resonated well with you as a life
Yeah,
life rules in a way.
yes.
Okay.
So you asked someone who greatly influenced me, and that was my maternal grandfather.
What
You
was
know,
his name?
I remember as a kid visiting New York and sitting on his lap, and he was teaching me to read Hebrew.
Is that the what the prayer book that you gave me, was that from him?
Probably so.
What was his name?
Eli. He was a Russian. He came from Russia. I think it was he who brought over a samovar that they had.
A what?
Samovar. That's something you brew tea in. It's a great big thing, this big, and it has a spigot, and you put tea in it. And you brew tea.
Oh, like a big jar with a thing on the bottom of it?
A metal piece, quite beautiful. He had recordings of chazans. Do you know what a chazan is? He's,
Chazan.
the word is chazans, chazan. And there were some chazans who had operatic voices. They were basso profundo. They were tenors. They were excellent singers. So he had these 16-inch recordings. He
Huh.
had a Victrola that you had to crank, and the Victrola had this great big horn on it. That's how old it was. And he would put on the records of the cousins, the cantors that he had collected. He also made wine in a bathtub during the Prohibition.
Prohibition. Yeah.
And he put it in a vat. My mother's bat mitzvah, he said, sent some kid down to get some wine out of the barrel of wine that he had. This kid inhaled through the spigot
Oh,
fumes of the wine in the barrel, and it intoxicated him. He lay flat on the floor. He was drunk. My grandfather went down to see where was this kid, and he was laying on the floor.
oh my God.
Fumes. This is
This-
one of his stories. He
This
also
is Grandma Francie's bat mitzvah.
yes. He
Oh
also
my God.
would wear a tie. He would wear a white shirt with a tie, but the tie would get in his way, so he'd put it in the pocket of the shirt. That's where it ended. He would never. He'd come to visit us in Chicago. He always comes to the back door, never the front door.
Huh.
He would leave, and he was so emotional he couldn't say goodbye. So he would leave, take a train back to New York, but he couldn't say goodbye. He was too emotional about it.
Oh my God. And what was his
My
last?
favorite characters.
Wait, hold on, Dad. So what was his last name? Was that Slutowski?
I think when he came over from Russia, it was Sluchak. And I think some immigration officer shortened it to Slut.
Right.
And that was what the girls went through school as. The boys changed their name to Sloan.
Oh,
Sloan, Mel Sloan, Jesse Sloan. They changed,
oh,
but the girl, when my Aunt Irene, my mother's sister, and my mother went through school with the last name of Slut. So
Oh my
when
God.
I
Right. I remember this.
so when
Okay.
now the people ask me, what was your mother's maiden name? I say Sloot. You know, they don't have to know all of that.
Right. Wait, so Eli, this was Grandma Francie's
Father,
father. So he was the one that you think you got all of your sappy emotional stuff from him.
yes.
How else did he influence you, Dad? You can't move on yet. This is fascinating.
What?
You can't move on to the next question yet.
Why? What's the matter?
Because I'm not done asking you about him. So how did he specifically influence you? Like, what did he make you feel?
Well, he, I think he would take me, he and some others built an Orthodox synagogue.
Really?
When I would visit them in New York, he would take me on Saturday to what was then, that place was called a shul. You don't call it, it was called a shul. And he had a huge wool talit. Then they used to call him talis, but now the sof is gone and the tof is there, so it's talit. And he would wear that and wrap me in it.
Hmm.
It had a smell, it had a scent,
Just gonna ask you.
yeah, of an older person. There in this huge talit had a unique scent that I can still remember today.
I think you gave that to Paul.
I don't know. I
I
don't know if
think
we ever got that. If it ended up with us, it was huge,
Huh.
big talus.
Because I remember hearing that story, and I don't remember if you gave that or if that was something I'd be interested to find out if Paul got that on his bar mitzvah. But I remember you telling
I
us
don't think
that
so.
story. No. So do you think that, that gave you a connection to Judaism was through him?
Well, remember, I am now an atheist.
Right.
So I think when I was a kid in my teens, I was also the rabbi of the junior congregation. And the sisterhood would bribe the boys who had become bar mitzvah to come and put on tefillin. Do you know what tefillin is?
No.
It's a box here.
Oh,
box
yeah.
on your arm with the long straps. The box here has straps going over your shoulder. It's all in black. And it comes from a Hebrew prayer that relates to, or the words are something like, you shall wear them, you shall put them as a signpost upon your door, which is where the
Mezuzah.
mezuzah comes from. And something else about excuse me, wearing them. So it has to do with that prayer. Because an Orthodox Jew would put them on every time he prays. The
Right.
men. My grandmother, his wife, would make beautiful challah. The egg dough, and it shines from the butter that she put on.
Right. Right.
But you could use the bread to vulcanize your tires. It was so tough. I don't know how she made tough bread, but she did.
So it looked good, but it didn't taste good.
It tasted terrible. Also, the Orthodox would take a steak and run it under the faucet. So you got all the juice out of it. Then they'd put it in a broiler.
Oh my God.
It came out like shoe leather. That's how you kosher the piece of meat.
So your grandfather started an Orthodox temple, and then so Grandma Francie, were they all raised Orthodox?
Oh yes, in fact,
And then
nobody knew English. My grandparents wanted the children to learn Yiddish.
Yiddish, right? I remember. Okay.
So she went to the kindergarten, and she came home, and they asked her, "What did you learn?" They asked her in Yiddish. She said she learned Manomen. Oh, she learned Manomen. Manomen is my name. Is Fanny. They called her Fanny.
Fanny Slut. I remember this.
France, she changed.
Francis.
I don't know when she did that.
Okay, so they came, hold on, they came over from,
No,
your
my
grandparents came
grandmother was-
over,
No, my
from Russia.
grandmother was born in New York. My
oh,
grandfather came from Russia.
Russia.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they didn't speak English, they spoke Yiddish.
No, that my grandmother spoke English. She was born here.
Oh, right,
Mother learned English.
English.
Um,
Okay,
but they spoke Yiddish to the kids so that they would learn the language, and all of them knew Yiddish.
Yiddish.
My folks would speak in Yiddish when they didn't want my brother and I to know what they
Did
were.
you ever, did it work or did you start
We
figuring it
never
out?
learned Yiddish. My brother
Oh.
and I never learned Yiddish.
Okay,
So
so, and then were you raised, you guys weren't raised in an Orthodox household, were you?
my mother wanted to keep kosher. My father did not. So he would continually mix up the silverware. There's supposed to be one set for milk,
Right, one for beef.
one set for meat, and he would do it intentionally to mix it
Ah.
up. The only way you kosher silverware is you stick it in the earth. So my mother had plants all over the house, and she was growing silverware. They were all in all of the plants.
You
Finally,
remember this?
what?
You remember this? Like
I
this would
remember
happen?
the silverware being in the plants.
Oh my God.
She finally gave up.
That's pretty
I
funny.
don't remember when that was. Can
Okay.
I move on? We'll never.
Yeah, that was pretty, I know, that was hysterical though. Okay, one more question and then we may have to take a break.
All right.
Let's see. What's the next question?
I'm looking. How would you find a good guy? Define a good
Oh,
guy.
a good guy. So do that. So now that could be a long one, but let's try. In today's age, not what you used to
Well,
think. Like if you think
there
now,
is a
what?
word in Yiddish, or it may be Hebrew. The word is a mensch, M-E-N-C-H. Have
Yes.
you heard that word?
Yes, yes, of course. You've called Todd a mensch.
That is a Hebrew or Yiddish word that says you're an upstanding, nice person. You're a mensch.
Okay, so if you were going to think for Lily and Sophie and Lena for your granddaughters, if they were going to marry a man, because we don't know what they're going to
I
end
hope
up
it would
doing.
be a
Well, you don't know, but let's
But-
say it. Let's say they are going to marry a man. What qualities? What would you want them to look for in a man? What do you think?
someone like me.
Like, come on, give me, as they would say, spill the tea, get more specific. Like what?
A man who has the values that I have, that I think Todd has, that I think Paul has, a care for other human beings, willing to listen, willing to explain his viewpoints. I would prefer they be a Democrat rather than a Republican.
So would I,
Someone who wants to contribute to society, will take on causes that he thinks are appropriate for him to respond to, who will march in a parade for liberal values. I always felt that I was born at the wrong time. I would have marched in the parades for social values,
Yeah.
what Martin Luther King Jr. would have done. I admired him a great deal.
So wait, so this is, I want to keep going with this one for just a minute, and then we're going to take a break because I'm going to have to go. But in light of so many things going on in the world with current events now, you were married at a time where, like, you talk about mom making dinner for you, and where she really took care of you quite a bit. And again, going back to like present time with women's rights and how women are viewed, what would you want to pass on to your granddaughters in terms of women's roles and rights and gender equity, anything
All of
in that
those, all of those things. When I graduated from law school, there may have been either one or two women in the class of, I don't know, 40 somewhere. Now women outnumber men in law school graduates. I would want them to be active in women's activities in those programs that are involved with the rights of individuals in this country. I think that's they're young enough to look at the values that women should espouse. I don't mean as housekeepers, but as human beings. It really disturbs me what the Supreme Court is doing. They should look and be aware of those things.
Yeah.
And do what they can to change those things. I don't know what those things will be when they get older to be involved with those things, but I hope they do something in that respect.
It's a good one. So, okay, we're gonna have to pause. How many did we get through? Stop recording. I'm gonna stop the recording.